Hello everyone. You are watching Stamping with Hart. My name is Melinda Hart. You can find me and more information about today's video and the card projects on my blog at www.stampingwithhart.blogspot.com. If you would like to sign up for my email list, that is the first place where I do sneak peeks for Facebook Live projects. That's where I publish videos, where I announce any new classes, clubs, projects. So I would love to have you sign up, and you can follow me there, or if you subscribe to this channel, you can see when I post videos. So today we are going to be working with the April Paper Pumpkin Kit, which is called Change is Beautiful. We're doing an alternate video today. So I'm going to show you the alternate cards, and then I'm going to show you a couple of alternate products that I'm going to bring in to work with the kit. So here we have just a real basic swing card concept here. Really cute with our original card. And here is a second version of that. Okay, I did a day and night alternate version of the cards. And then I did two butterfly theme cards. And these are the coordinating colors from the Paper Pumpkin Kit that were used on these card projects, along with some of the pieces from the Paper Pumpkin Kit. And this was actually the envelope, the inside of the envelope. Let me bring in some of the alternate products I'm going to be using for the cards today. So we're going to be heavily using the kit. I brought in the brushed brass butterflies. Try saying that 3 times fast. So we're going to be using those in a few instances, although the embellishments in the kit are so cute. I'm going to be using Stellar Birthday. We're going to be using the Sentiment Reach for the Stars. So if you want to use an alternate stamp set, you can. You do not have to. I'm just going to be bringing that in for the one night theme card. And then I'm going to be using these Stitched So Sweetly dies. These are retiring. Stellar Birthday is retiring. So it's a while supplies last thing. I'm not sure if they're still available or not. They may be gone. If you can't use Stitched So Sweetly, I recommend Stitched Rectangle dies. And I think I did use Stitched Rectangle for a few things. I did end up using my Stampin' Heat Emboss powder in white. I used the Versamark ink. And then I brought in the Memento Tuxedo Black just for a few of the stamps here. To go with the cards. I think that black ink for this actual kit is really nice for alternates, in addition to the colored ink. Melon Mambo is the color that comes in the kit. And then I actually got to do just a teeny bit of coloring with my Stampin' Blends. Isn't that such a pretty combo of colors? This has beautiful colors in this kit. And then if you bring in some coordinating shades or shades that are close, so beautiful, so spring. So we have Daffodil Delight Dark, we have Pale Papaya Dark, Polished Pink Light, Granny Apple Green Light, and Pool Party Light. And just to give you an idea, Pool Party Light was kind of colored around to give a little bit of a glow around this butterfly. And then on the inside here, I colored in a butterfly. And I also colored in a caterpillar. So using Stampin' Blends is unusual for me with the alternate projects, but I do use them sometimes. Totally optional. But if you want to grab the supplies and make the cards with me throughout the video, at least now you'll know what the alternate supplies are. So let's go ahead and make these alternate card projects. I just wanted to say a huge thank you for all of the feedback that I got, and for all of the just positive feedback and all of the love that my last video got. I was blown away by how much you guys liked the March alternative cards and the video, and you had said that you preferred to have your unboxings separately. So that's what I'm going to do. So this is going to be exclusively an alternatives video, And I'm basically going to go through the same process as I did with the March video, where I'm just going to start designing as I go with this kit and with these cards. Here's what I want to point out. These are the cards as the Paper Pumpkin team has designed them. I'm going to go straight to the other side of the instructions. So if you've never seen the instructions before, here they are, and they're visual instructions that will take you step by step through each card. I care more about the back, which gives me the kit components here to make sure that we have everything. I'm also going to reference our coordinating colors because I always refer to these when I am making alternates. And then just wanted to show you that Paper Pumpkin does their own alternatives, and here you can see what they did with them. These are the inks and the coordinating colors. If you're sticking with just the Paper Pumpkin kit, you do not have to worry about this. This is when you want to make your kit live on longer, or you want to extend the life of your kit. If you have any of the coordinating colors, I would recommend getting those out. And we'll see what we're going to use. I don't exactly know. I always just pull the product that I think of first to see what I can do to incorporate alternates. So these are the coordinating colors in the inks. And then here are the coordinating colors in the card stocks. And I mean, just look at that. And I apologize for all the plastic being on everything, but when you look at that rainbow of color, that is just pretty fabulous, right? So this is a really fun color coordination month, and there's a lot of coordinating colors here. Here are our envelopes. I'm just going to take one of each right now, and we're going to use the paper on the inside of these envelopes. And you could always cut more, but this is just to give me some options as I'm designing alternates. So what we're going to do is take each envelope apart by just trimming off very small amounts of the side so that we can go ahead and cut these into sections to use these on our alternate cards later. Melon Mambo is the star of the show for this month's kit. That is our ink color this month. I'm going to get one of each of the card bases and take a look at these. According to the Paper Pumpkin kit, with this card, it goes this way and opens up like this. Okay, and then this would be the back of the card. And this is what the original card looks like for this one. And you would put your sentiment on the back of the card here. And this one, which is my absolute favorite, this is so clever. We have a night and day card. So we have the night card and we have the day card. It is just so sweet. So when you fold this and you pop this moon out, the sun on the inside becomes the color of the moon. And you know, same with the stars. These are die cut right into the card base, so you can pop out the stars here. Okay, we're definitely going to save those. But here's what that looks like when it's closed without doing anything to it. And then when you open it, then we have our sun on the inside. Okay, and then there are the coordinating die pieces that would go with it. All right, but that's basically how that card would look in its original form. So the first two that I want to look at, and I'm going to set these aside right here for now. Okay, so the first two that I want to look at here, basically what I wanted to do with these, my thought process here was to turn it into a swing card. Okay, so I haven't tried it yet, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do that on camera with you you know, as I kind of go through my design process. You know, these cards are really cute, but for me, I just personally like to see some type of sentiment or something on the front of my card. So I thought, since we already have this fun fold going for us, we could just turn it into a swing card and do something cute with that. These are what the die cuts look like. There are 3 sheets of these, so you could always, you know, add in some of your die cut pieces as well. And I haven't even gotten to the stamp set yet, which we will. Here is our stamp set. Let me just show this to you. Okay, so here are the stamps that we have to work with. Really love the sentiments. We have 2 different versions of butterflies. We have our caterpillar here. We have a pattern over here. And then we have a lot of our sentiments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every day is a new day. I believe in you. May this new season hold wonderful experiences, or wonderful new experiences. And I am so proud of who you've become. So if you have people that are transitioning to different things in their lives, if they're graduating from high school or from college, if they're getting a new job, if they're moving into their first home or apartment, you know, if anything regarding congratulations, I think would be absolutely wonderful. If they're starting a family, those could all be great reasons to use these particular sentiments and to keep with that theme. Okay, so I decided to speed this video up just very slightly because of the swing card process. It required a lot of die cutting. So what I'm doing here, what I'm trying to point out is that you can find the positioning that you want and the size rectangle that you want. I chose the largest of the Stitch So Sweetly dies. And remember, you're only going to be cutting half of the rectangle. So you're not going to lose the imagery of that cocoon. You're just going to have that one piece that you cut out, that one half. So the score line on those 2 pieces where I'm sort of centering it in the rectangle, that is the most important piece of a swing card. And now you're going to put your plate down on the score line. That means that where the plate is the only area that it's going to cut. That is the most important thing about a swing card. So as long as your plate isn't over the full die, it's not going to cut the full die. It will only cut half. It'll cut it right to that score line, and that's going to give you your swing card. So here, what I'm doing is I'm going back to those envelope liners. We're going to use this as designer series paper, and I'm trying to match in the layer that I want for my swing piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a sentiment to the outside of the card using the swing piece, and we're going to find the layer that we like best. And for this card, I chose the pink polka dot. I just thought that that was so perfect. So you're going to cut another rectangle in the same size. And you could cut it smaller if you want, but I wanted to keep my sizing the same. I basically wanted to replace it. And then we're going to cut the next size down in basic white cardstock. And that is where our sentiment is going to go. So I decided to do a layered look. Now, you don't have to do a layered look. You can keep it as simple as you like. I chose to do some layers here. So that's why you see me cutting multiple rectangles. And I just wanted to make that really clear. So it's that score line in the middle of your rectangle die that matters. You're going to put your plate to the line, the score line. You're going to see me do it again here. Make sure that your die is face down so that it will cut into that paper. And it's only going to cut where the plate is sitting. So as long as you place it right on that score line, you're good to go. And then you're going to cut your piece the same size to go on to your rectangle there. We're going to do this one more time. I'm doing that match again. I ended up going with that tricolor of the Bermuda Bay and the Granny Apple Green. You'll see that envelope piece here. That's the color that I decided to go with for this card. And I did that same process. So we're going to have this piece replace that layer. And you can, you know, that layer that's under there is already colored and decorated. So if you want to just keep the one that you cut, that's fine. But I'm going to kind of reinforce it with this piece from the envelope. And then we're also going to do the slightly smaller rectangle in basic white. So we'll decorate these together in just a moment. Just wanted to show that to you. The other part of this is the piece that's going to sit on the inside of the card. You want to make sure that the rectangle is either the same size or slightly smaller so that it doesn't peak before you open the card. So the safer thing to do is to size down. And on this card, I actually ended up doing a rectangle on the other side of the card. All right, let's see if I can get this down. Just want to fit it into this corner first. Okay, with multi-purpose glue, you have a minute to reposition it if you feel like your lineup isn't quite perfect. Okay. Okay, so here we go. All right, that's what that looks like. Okay, so for the next part of this, which is just designing our new card front, I took a die cut butterfly to be the center of this piece. And what I'm doing now is I'm trying to decide which sentiment is best because I was going to stamp the sentiment right on top of the butterfly. So it becomes the sentiment and like the visual center of the front of the card. I was trying to find a size that I knew was going to stamp fully on the butterfly. So the first stamp that I grabbed, it was just too big. And so I ended up settling on this one, and I decided to get the Stamparatus out for this because I knew I wanted to stamp it several times to get a very rich black shade with the tuxedo memento black ink. So by just kind of putting it on the Stamparatus and using that plate, you know, it's a stamp positioning tool if you're not familiar, and this allows you to stamp it in the identical spot over and over again until you achieve, you know, the color and the results that you want. So you'll see here as I start to build this the color on the sentiment. And I wanted to refer to Melon Mambo quickly, just to say that if you don't have other colors, you know, if you're working just with the color in the kit, Melon Mambo stamped several times is a very deep pink, and it's going to show up beautifully if you do this with Melon Mambo on your butterfly as well. And you can see that that ends up going looking from like a regular font to like a bold font when you stamp it several times with the Stamparatus. I was really happy with that sentiment, with the positioning, and with the way that it turned out on the butterfly. So you can see here, I mean, this is very pretty, very simple, very pretty. These are these iridescent looking stones or rock like embellishments that came inside the kit. And then I was also playing around with the idea of the stars because the card to me almost looks like a nighttime card, right? And I thought, no, you know what? I don't want to do that. I really wanted to have something coming from behind the butterfly. And I even took away the basic white layer for a moment to see would it look better if it was on the, you know, the envelope layer of all of those pretty colors, because it almost looks like an aurora borealis or something like that, right? And I did like the way that that looked. But what I ultimately decided to do was to take my Pool Party Stampin' Blend marker in the lightest shade. All of our Stampin' Blends come in like a combo pack, a light and a dark of the same color. And I chose the light to basically create like a soft glow behind the butterfly. So with that, I was really happy because it tied in some of that color. It helped the butterfly stand out against the white. It just created like a very soft contrast there. and it just gave it a softness that I thought went perfectly with the card. So what I'm doing is just kind of holding my butterfly in place and kind of moving it as I need to, because I didn't want to trace it like officially, you know, I didn't want to have any pencil marks or pen marks or anything like that. So this was just the, you know, the quickest way to kind of get to that result. And you could just, you know, scribble across the whole paper. You don't have to be so close and so concentrated. You can make it kind of like a bigger circle if you want, and not go, you know, specifically around the butterfly if you want to keep it simpler. But I really liked this look. I really liked that it was almost like a shadow layer of the butterfly, just barely there, right? It's just like a kiss of color. And I've done that recently with some of my Stampin' Blend coloring, and it's just something that I'm really loving the look of lately. It's just kind of a thing. So I'm just going to glue that down. But it ended up being a very simple card front. And I did add a few of those iridescent rock embellishments just to kind of give it a little bit of sparkle there. And I thought it was so pretty. So you can just, you know, do this flush with your card, or you can pop it up on dimensionals. You get dimensionals in your paper pumpkin kit, and those are the dimensionals that I'm using. And I just think that it just added a really nice layer of dimension there. I really like them up on dimensionals. I did the second card on dimensionals as well, which you'll see. Now here, I was really struggling with positioning my rectangle. I did not want to cover that flower. I just thought that that scene was so pretty. And I thought, if I put this rectangle here, it's going to cover up that whole scene. And I really wanted to show the scene. So my solution was to do a smaller size rectangle than what I had originally planned, and do it on the back of the swing piece instead of that, the floral scene. I just thought I just thought it was pretty, and I just wanted to leave it alone, especially because our sentiment is going to go on the other side of the card anyway. So I really felt like this was the best use for this particular fun fold, right? We are adding a sentiment to the front. We are creating that alternate aspect of this card by kind of adding some pieces to it, but we're still preserving the original artwork that the Paper Pumpkin team did. And then we're still putting our, you know, our message to whoever's going to receive the card on the back. But we say a little bit of something on the outside, we say a little bit of something on the inside, and then you can write or stamp whatever you want on the back of your card. And that was how I ended up settling on the swing card. So you'll have to let me know in the comments what your opinion is on that. Would you have covered the night scene, you know, with the flowers and, you know, that backlit sky with the little white polka dots, which to me look like stars in a sky, in a night sky? Or would you have put your rectangle right over top of it? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what your design choice would have been. So we kind of have this orange, yellowish orange pink situation here. So let me do, maybe we'll just do a little bit of Daffodil Delight. I don't have crushed curry in the blends, which is the yellow that goes with this. And then Mango Melody, I don't have. Yeah, so I'm just going to do Daffodil Delight Dark. Okay, and then I'm going to do Pumpkin Pie Light. Oh, you know what I do have? I have Pale Papaya Dark. So let's do Pale Papaya Dark. Just kind of like right in the middle, like blending out, right? Here we go. And then we'll do pink on the edges. And so I will do light polished pink. Cute. All right, and then for its little body, I think I'm going to go back to the Pale Papaya Dark and just color in that body. Good. So just cute, just simple. Okay. And we could just put that right here. Oh, you know what? Oh, gosh, you guys. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay. And so there we go. We have our swing card. Okay. And so let's go ahead and we're going to make another one. This is the second swing card, and back when I was doing all of the die cutting, I had actually done that portion of this card then, so it feels a little quicker now where we're just kind of assembling this, and this piece of video is really just showing you the design concept for the front of this card, and in my opinion, this card was easier. It was easier to design the outside, and it was easier to lay my rectangle on the inside because it was mostly a sky scene and I didn't feel like I was covering anything up. Now, I had my eye on that flower from the minute I saw the die cuts in this kit. If you are a floral person, I think that you will really appreciate this card. And if you're not a floral person, you could very easily turn this into, you know, a butterfly theme. Or if you have any nature scenes, you know, stamp sets or whatever, and you'd want to incorporate that, you could do that. I wanted to try to find a way to sneak in that caterpillar, and I wanted to use that gigantic flower. I just thought it was such a good focal point for a swing card front. So with the positioning of that flower, you're going to see me kind of messing with that positioning a little bit. And that was because I wanted to make sure that it didn't go outside the lines of the swing. So that meant it had to stay inside the pink rectangle. So I was trying to figure out, where did I want to stamp my sentiment? Which sentiment did I want to use? I ended up with every day is a new day. And I was playing around with this banner trying to see, did I want to add in a second element of sentiment there. And I decided just to go with this one for the outside. I decided to stamp a Memento Tuxedo black again. And then I was trying to decide if I wanted to add in the yellow die cut flowers, because as you can see, those yellow die cut flowers are printed on the actual card base. They are a great match, and I did end up using them on the inside of the card, which you'll see in a moment. So here is where I'm trying to figure out if I wanted to use the stamp caterpillar or if I wanted to use the die cut caterpillar. Both are fine. I liked the way that they both looked. I ultimately decided I was gonna kind of stamp a little bit on the white rectangle and stamp actually a little bit on the flower, so that it looked like our little stamped caterpillar was crawling onto the flower. I just thought that it was cool. So I knew I was using my Stampin' Blends a little bit. So you can see I had put down the flower with a glue dot, and I actually ran through my glue dots. You'll see me like kind of at the end of my roll here. So a glue dot is a great way if you're trying to get your positioning right, but you're not 100% committed to it, that you could still move your flower around a little bit before you fully glue it down. And that's exactly what I was doing here as I was adding my caterpillar. And then once I found that proper positioning, I went ahead and put it down. I did not want the leaf covering the sentiment, and I wanted to make sure that my caterpillar was visible. And here is where I was like trying to decide, did I want to add anything else? And I went with these iridescent rock looking embellishments, which I just think are so cute, very unique, almost like rectangles. And here we are putting that smaller rectangle as our sentiment piece on the inside. This is more of that traditional fun fold, right? That traditional fun fold swing card. And I'm just kind of gluing it down. I decided to glue it, you know, lift it half up on each side because you have to be careful with your positioning behind the swing piece. And now I'm just adding in those die cut yellow flowers. You have plenty of these to use, so have fun with those. And then I wanted to stamp something on the inside. Now, you could actually write, you know, whatever you would want to say on this little rectangle here and not worry about the stamp. But just remember, you have that back piece that Stampin' Up! Designed for you to write your message. So you still have that whole space to work with or decorate with as well. I hope you enjoyed the swing card alternates, and now let's go ahead and work with that day and night card. We'll make some alternates with those. Now, I personally think that the obvious thing to do if you're working with alternate cards, as clever as this is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think this card is perfect, okay? I absolutely love what they did with this card. If you wanted to make alternate cards with it, I would literally cut the card in half and I would make separate night and day cards as opposed to having this super cute night to day. But I mean, just understand with the sentiments that they've included, every day is a new day, you know, that type of thing. I mean, it's just perfect. And they also have these clouds that they've provided in the die cuts that you can use, you know, for your scene. So let's go ahead and cut this apart. Okay, and so now we have our night and our day scene, and we can go ahead and work with alternates with that. Now, the other thing that I wanted to do before I move on to my alternate completely is for this card, I wanted to add a few more embellishments. I did add the little iridescent stones, but this is where I want to incorporate my brass butterflies. So I'm just going to go and add in a few of these too. And so this way we have a little bit of both. I'm going to put one on the inside here too. I just think that that's so cute. Okay. All right, so here we go. Now you can see with the size of this card, I mean, every inch of this is usable. And don't forget about our opposite sides, right? If you wanted to do opposites, you could do that too. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a sheet of crushed curry. You could also do, I think basic white would be really good for this, just depending on what you want. But if we're gonna do an alternate card base here, I think that crushed curry is perfect. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to 4 1/4, and we are gonna score the entire sheet. Okay, and then we're gonna go to 5 1/2, and we're gonna cut. And we now have our 2 card bases here. Okay, I don't want you to feel like you have to have all 6, you know, coordinating colors. If you do, that's fantastic. But if you don't, that's okay too. So you can just work with one of the coordinating colors for both of your card bases here. So we can go ahead and put this one down. I mean, honestly, I don't even want to do that much different with it. And then here we would have our daytime card. Now for me, the daytime card is where I would probably do some layering and some trimming, because I would like to tie in the crushed curry as a border. going right along with this theme here. Okay, so let's put this one aside. Let's work with the night one first, because that feels like the, you know, obvious and fabulous one. So I cannot tell you how much I love this. I would actually do an entire set of cards with this. Okay, so let me put this down. And I am like actually going to adhere it exactly just like this. So let me, I'm going to go right in between these stars. I just want to be careful not to put adhesive over a star that you're going to be able to see through. I don't want it to be any, you know, sticky where anybody would touch it necessarily. Okay, so let me just fold that over. I kind of slightly went over my edge there. Let's see. This is the one corner I'm worried about. I think I got enough adhesive in the rest of the corners there. Just want to make sure that those corners stick down, because we are going right to the edge with this card. All right, and then let's go ahead and just put this down. I'm going to start with one corner, and then we'll just gently lay it down. I am very happy with that. That looks great. Okay. So for the original paper pumpkin card, what they did was they put a yellow star at the end of this little starburst here. And that is this star here, the die cut star. And then we have these clouds, and I'm going to pop this out. I'm going to pop out this star because I think that that is such an adorable idea. Okay. And as you can see here, there's no sentiment on the outside of this card. Very interesting that they did it this way, where we have no sentiment on the outside here. There's a very small one here, and then nothing here. So I think I'm going to change that, but let me play with it. Okay, so I think that their design here is just so good that I'm going to stick with it, but we are going to make some slight changes. Okay, so here's where they put their clouds. Here's where we would add our star at the end of that starburst. I can tell you, I want to use my Wink of Stella with this card. So we're going to get our Wink of Stella out. But we are also going to add back in some of our stars. We're going to make it a very starry sky. All right, but I want to think about the sentiment. So here they left it blank, but I like to have sentiments on the outside of my cards. So I want to have that here. And I have this stamp set. Now this stamp set is also retiring, just in case you have any kind of themes like this regarding stars, anything involving stars or the night or the moon. That's what I would focus on for this card. So we're going to do Reach for the Stars. Okay, and Reach for the Stars will go with, you know, I'm so proud of who you've become, or I believe in you. I think I believe in you goes perfectly with Reach for the Stars. Okay, so that is the one that we're going to use here. And for my shape here, for my color, the question is, because we are dealing with a dark card base, I could actually just stamp this right onto the card base and heat emboss and it'd be nice and bright. If you don't have heat embossing, you could do like a white ink or a silver ink, or, you know, something fun like that. So I'm wondering, do I want to add, you know, another layering piece here where I could do, you know, just part of the banner here down at the bottom, reach for the stars, or do I want to stamp it directly on? And I think what I want to do is just stamp it directly onto the card base. There we go. So basically, like, this would kind of like peak, the clouds would peak and be going like over the moon. So I would probably do my sentiment like right here, center underneath the moon at the bottom. And I'm just taking a look to see, what do I have here? Is this gonna look good if I stamp that in white heat emboss? And I think it's gonna be great. Like, I think it's gonna be fine. Okay, so here what we're going to do are those heat emboss steps. If you've never done heat embossing before, I recommend an anti-static tool like an embossing buddy. There are different things out there on the market. Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell one, but Stampin' Up! Does sell the Versamark ink, and of course the heat emboss powders, and also a heat tool. So I just stamped in Versamark. I'm just going to catch the powder right here on the card base, and we're gonna hit it with the heat tool, and that's how we'll get our heat emboss sentiment on the card. Just very, very simple, and just that one stamp. And then after that, we are going to go ahead and start adhering our pieces. So for me, whenever you do a heat emboss element, you know, it just adds a little bit of shine. It just adds that bold color against the night sky. If I had to stamp it over again, I would probably move it up like a ½ an inch higher, like just a little bit closer to the moon, so that it wasn't stamped over top of that star. But honestly, it's fine. I mean, it's totally fine. So you can decide what your positioning is or what you would do. And here, what I'm doing is that star at the end of the starburst is up on a dimensional, and the rest of these are going to go on these little adhesive dots. And you can, you know, work your process however you want. I decided to use the white side of the stars and put them back onto the card. I just wanted it to have like this, you know, you have these different color stars. We have the yellow, we have the gray, we now have the white. And we're just going to go ahead and add in little bits, you know, not everywhere, but just in certain parts, we're going to add a little bit of the Wink of Stella glitter pen. It's just a way to add a little bit of shine and a little bit of glitter to what I think is already a fabulous card base. So you could decide how many stars you would like. I think those clouds are perfect. I had to add them back in. I know it was part of the original design, but sometimes you just don't mess with that if it looks great, right? So this is the night card. Our daytime card is next, and the daytime card, in my opinion, is the easier of the two in terms of the alternates, and also the simpler card. They don't all have to be super complicated. So that is the card that we will work with next. This is a little bit of a labor of love if you're using these adhesive dots. So if you prefer glue, go for it. Use your glue. You don't have to do what I did. And here I'm just kind of, for people who've never seen the Wink of Stella glitter pen, I'm just trying to show that shine that it's going to add, that little element there. And it just adds, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but in person, it just adds that perfect element of sparkle there. And you have a lot of control over the tip of that pen too. Okay, so after I finished up with the Wink of Stella pen, I decided to do the inside of the card. We're going to still use the same rectangle, the largest scalloped rectangle from So Sweetly Stitched. I'm adding the I Believe in You stamp from the Paper Pumpkin kit. I stamped it in the Memento Tuxedo Black. I'm adding back in some of the stars, but this time I decided to use the side where they are in black just to add some of that contrast there around the sentiment on the inside of the card. I thought it turned out really cute. So you can decide, you know, how much or how little you want to use to decorate your card. But because this is a card base that we created with our own cardstock, you can have some fun with decorating the inside there. And that was one rogue little star that I forgot about, so I added that one at the end. Okay, so for our daytime card, I wanted to make the point that you don't have to trim that card down if you don't want to. Because I'm doing it in crushed curry, I did want to have a border. I am somebody who just likes a framed border when I can have one. So that's what I decided to do. I thought that the So Sweetly Stitched rectangle was a little too small of a border for me. It was a little too close to the sun. I still wanted to see some of the details of the, you know, the moon, not the moon. I still wanted to see some of the details of the clouds that they have in the sky there. So I did decide to switch to the stitched rectangle dies for that because there are larger options. And I just die cut it off screen. You know, the later I go when I'm designing paper pumpkin cards, when I'm doing 5 and 6 at a time, I have a separate table that I will use to die cut, and it's not on camera. So sometimes you'll see me just bringing in some die cut pieces and pulling them out of the dies, and that's what happened. I have a little cart off to the side where my my die cut machine lives. So here I decided to do another one of those kind of stamp right onto the image there. So it's half on and half off of the sun. Every day is a new day, I thought was a good piece for that. Now there's a background stamp in the paper pumpkin kit that's really cute. Almost looks like a row of flowers. But in this case, you know, it could be anything. And I decided to just stamp a row across the bottom in the same tone, so in crushed curry along the bottom of the card base. You know, sometimes I'll do the full card, but this time I decided just to do at the bottom, and you'll see I have like 2 slight gaps in there. So I just did some masking so that I only had the one instead of the whole row. So I was just stamping an individual one to kind of fill in those little holes there. So not exactly perfect stamping, but I don't think that anybody is gonna you know, pay attention or be worried about that. If you want to be more precise with it, of course you can. But that's, you know, part of the charm of, you know, working with handmade cards and hand stamping. So I decided to take the cloud die cuts, and instead of using the gray side, use the white side. And I wanted to go with that same look of what they did with the nighttime card where it's slightly over the sun. So they're back up on dimensionals again. They're just peeking out, like they're just kind of, you know, coming right into the sun, just very slightly. We're still seeing the sun. And then we'll just position that rectangle and get that glued down. This is where I bring in those brass butterflies, the brushed brass butterflies. So hard to say that. And you can also add in that, you know, that element from your envelopes here. I was testing to see if I wanted to add in another layer, and I just didn't think it was necessary. I thought the one, the crushed curry with the stars was really cute, but I just thought it was fine the way that it was. So I decided to just go ahead and put my rectangle on there. Just stamp that down and add a few embellishments. So of all of my alternative cards, this one was the simplest. And we're going to finish by creating some cards with our own backgrounds using the 2 butterflies and also the envelope designer series paper liners for our last 2 cards. So you can, you know, decide what's best for you. If you don't have the stitch rectangle dies, just go ahead and cut out, you know, trim down your rectangle, or you can use the full size on the whole front of your card base. These are really easy alternates to create. And then this is just my inside layer piece. So again, I decided to stamp a sentiment on the inside of this card. But the main point that I want to get across with alternate cards is don't stress over them. Just make sure you're having fun with the process. I'm going to do Bermuda Bay. So we'll do 4 colors. We're going to do Bermuda Bay, Granny Apple Green, Melon Mambo, and Crushed Curry. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Crushed Curry. and it's okay to stamp off of the paper because we're going to be stamping this all over. All right, so the idea is just to stamp this and repeat all throughout the paper. Okay, so I do recommend having some type of a quick stamp cleaner if I didn't already say that. This is my Simply Chamois. I absolutely love this thing. You can keep it in one of the stamp cases. You can purchase empty stamp cases out of the annual catalog. You can purchase the Simply Chamois out of the annual catalog. I highly recommend some type of a quick cleaner if you do like to use more than one ink color and when you're completing a project. So as you start, collecting your paper pumpkin kits, and as you start collecting your ink spot colors, and as you start getting a little bit more creative, with your alternate cards, or even with the cards that Paper Pumpkin designed, having a quick cleaner is so good. So here you'll just see I'm literally just trying to alternate my colors, and I'm just trying to fit the butterfly patterns into each other, trying to make them look natural like they're flying, and trying to make sure I have a good mix of these 4 shades, throughout the pattern. I'm going to do the same thing with the next layout. So we're going to have 2 different butterflies, 2 different backgrounds that we create based, off of this stamp set. So just remember, when your consumables from your kit are gone, meaning when you've used up your card bases, when you've used up your envelopes, you have those stamp sets and you have those ink spots forever. Your adhesive lasts a long time too. So here we're going to go ahead and we're going to create that second background. This is with a smaller butterfly. So I kind of did this in a more, linear fashion, sideways. Instead of having them go in multiple directions, they're all going in the same direction. And what I tried to do was kind of start in the center with each row and then just work my way out with the colors. And the more butterflies we get into, the more I repeat the colors within the same row. So, there's no hard and fast rules here. Just have fun with stamping your colors, and don't forget to clean in between so that you don't end up getting different colored ink onto your ink pads. If you make a mistake, keep going. You can always layer something over the mistake, right? Unless it's something major. You can see I made a little mistake here, and I have a little smudge of pink that transferred from my hand onto the paper. I just stamped my Bermuda Bay, butterfly over top of it, and I just kept going. And that's just because when you get to the design step where you can put a die cut over it, or you could put a banner piece over it, or whatever, an embellishment, that doesn't mean that you have to scrap the whole thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's just the most important thing that I can say throughout this whole process. And the more you stamp backgrounds, because I hear from a lot of people saying, like, how are you doing that freehanded? How are you stamping those backgrounds so perfectly freehanded? Just as you get into the habit of doing this, the easier it gets. But you just try to keep something in mind. And in this case, it was, they're all going in the same direction and they're all going in a line. Just focus on one line at a time. And before you know it, you'll be to the end of your pattern. So at this point, you can either leave the full layer the way that it was stamped, or you can trim them down. I decided to trim them down a little bit with my stitch rectangle dies, which I did off camera. And that's so that I can add in that other element of design, which is the envelope liners, which you'll see me bringing back in here. These are perfect when you're creating background patterns because you're incorporating all of the colors, so it's automatically going to coordinate, right? So I'm just using the different size rectangle sizes for the dies, the larger one for the envelope layer, and then the smaller one for our stamped background. And you can play around with this. You can get probably a couple of layers out of it if you wanted to cut them down even into smaller rectangles than that. And then in terms of the layout of the cards, I did a Granny Apple Green card base for the one butterfly card, and I did a Melon Mambo card base for the other. And again, that's keeping, within those coordinating colors. If you don't have all of them, just use the same, cardstock for multiple card bases. It's totally fine. Or you can even go back to your card kit and use one of the card bases, you know, from the card kit for your stamped background pattern. So you definitely have options there. And I did use my Stamparatus to stamp onto, but you don't have to do that, especially like if you're doing it freehand. Just keep in mind when you're stamping with photopolymer stamps, you don't have the extra cushion that you get when you use a cling mount stamp that has foam on it. So I like to use the Stamparatus for the, you know, either for the foam pad that comes with it or for the plates, because we know that that plate is nice and flat. So as I'm finishing up this video here, I'll get back to the card details in just a moment. Be sure to subscribe if you like alternate paper pumpkin videos. I tend to do an alternate paper pumpkin video every month, sometimes more than one, just depending on my time and the size of the kit. And then also give this video a like if you like seeing videos like this one. Your feedback is so important to me, and this lets me know, and it also lets YouTube know that you like what you're seeing, and that means it will send it out to more people, so that more people can see and appreciate videos like this one. Okay, so back to the details of the card. So here I'm going back to the Melon Mambo ink. I'm doing the Beautiful Things Take Time. This is a Melon Mambo card base here. I'm just doing my Stampin' Seal Plus to adhere my rectangles. This is more of the classic layout that I'm working with on this one. The next card, I offset the rectangle slightly, and I really love the way that that turned out. I used Bermuda Bay ink on the sentiment for that. And this is a Granny Apple Green card base here. So you can really start to have fun with those colors and those patterns and all of that. And then I just finish off by adding that die cut butterfly, and then also those iridescent little rocks embellishments from this kit. And I was pretty generous with those here in the end. So I want to thank you so much for spending your time here today. And I will see you again in the next video. Be sure to stay tuned to the next video.